Ms. Dalena Kanouse is here. She's a senior director, and she's going to talk to you about the Military Child Coalition. The topic is generally described on your agenda, but I think it's certainly a new topic for me. I haven't heard us in this council talk about it too much, talk about a lot of things, but she'll be talking about things related to mobility and deployment and things like that. So I think I'll let her take over from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much. As it was mentioned, my name is Dalena Kanouse, and I serve as a Senior Director for the National Capital Region for the Military Child Education Coalition. But before I begin the presentation, I just have a question, actually a couple of questions. And I know we've kind of mentioned it before as you introduced yourself, but how many of you are prior military? Okay, thank you for your service. How many of you are military spouses? How many of you were military kids? You know, and I once heard Mrs. Pence say, our military kids may not have participated in their parents' decision to join the military, but they've definitely stepped up to the plate and served, and I'm totally in agreement to that. I was a military child. My stepfather was in the Air Force, traveled all over. My husband served 25 years in the Army, retired Sergeant Major. All three of my children joined the military. 2 are still in. The one that isn't in, her husband is. My daughter just made Lieutenant Colonel. My son is a Black Hawk pilot, CW4. And my son-in-law is Lieutenant Colonel Protable. He's up at Fort Wilvar. So they're local. My son is in Arizona, though. But the topper is all seven of my grandchildren are military kids. So this is truly a labor of love. It really is. And, you know, it was mentioned, do you know, 2 out of 3, and just listening to you going around the room, it is more likely 2 times, let me just restate this. There's 2 more times likely, that's probably not the correct language, that military parents, I mean, they will continue. You know what I'm trying to say? 2 times more likely to join the military service, there we go, than their civilian counterpart. So we really are carrying the torch a lot. Anyway, MSAC, Military Child Education Coalition, what drives our organization is our vision that every military-connected child thrives in the face of transition, mobilization, and family separation. You know, also what we do too is we ensure we solely exist to help our children thrive and our college, workforce, and ultimately life ready. And we have a huge footprint, and a lot of you are going to understand this. Oconus and Conus, we are everywhere, and it's an amazing organization. And yes, when my kids were growing up, I didn't know about Military Child Education Coalition. And we've been around for 20 years now, and just celebrated our 20th last year. So it's definitely something that needs to be told. The story needs to be shared. Okay. The Service Secretary's joint memo to the National Governors Association stated, "We are often asked what communities can do to support those who serve. While focus is on the mission is always priority, the facts military families cite most frequently as drawbacks to the military service include the quality of schools available for their children. And they said that we encourage leadership to consider the quality of schools, evaluating future bases or mission requirements. You know, the Military Family Advisory Network conducted a survey of 5,650 military personnel and their spouses. Over almost half, 43%, at some point in their military career decided to live apart. And there's 2 reasons why. Education, children education, and military spouse employment. Also, Blue Star Families also conducted a survey. And they conducted a survey with military personnel, spouses, and veterans. I'm going to focus on the military spouses. Their focus, military spouses surveyed, 46% decided to live apart again, and 39% was due to children's education. The other part was military spouse employment. So there is definitely a need. If you think about it, you know, our security really depends on the qualities of schools and making sure our parents are together. Because one theme kept running through the survey was the importance of the stability, that unit, the family unit stability. And that's the one thing that kept running through. For the sake of the child, we help one child at a time. And what our mission is, we have 5 areas that we focus to advance our mission, and that is, you know, the educational need for children are recognized on a national level. Second is our students thrive. They thrive in education, and that they're able to be college, workforce, and life ready. The other was parents, to ensure that our parents have the tools that they need to be able to help their children move around, go to different schools. As a military child, you understood what it's like to have to move from school to school, because, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, but military kids, they move anywhere between 2 to 3 years, and that can be very devastating to their academic career. We also help our education partners, and to ensure that they have the knowledge to recognize a need with military kids. And I can tell you a story about Carolyn. And she's in the 4th grade. She's always so immaculate. You know, she'd come to school, her hair would be combed, she'd always sit, you know, nice, everything would be organized. Well, her teacher noticed that there was something not right about Carolyn. Something's odd. So she went to the counselor, and the counselor said, yeah, I think her father's deployed. Well, the teacher said, okay, so they did a little more research. Apparently what had happened is the mother was so depressed that her husband was gone that she couldn't take care of the kids. So Carolyn, 4th grade, was taking care of her younger brother. And she would get them ready for school, make breakfast, lunches. And when she came to school, she only combed the first part. She didn't comb the back of her hair. So that's how the teacher knew. So this is what, if we open the eyes of our educators, it helps them identify those needs that our children may not, they're not going to tell the teacher. It's important. And then also, we want to do state and local and our community leaders to ensure that they understand and they're helpful to our military connected kids. So that's what, those are those 5. And when you have a caring adult in your corner, you're more apt to succeed. And that's what we strive for. We educate, advocate, and collaborate. We educate, like I just mentioned, anyone who wants to listen, teachers, parents, you know, the community. Advocating, you know, we do early childhood outreach. We do, you know, we have counselors embedded in schools to where they have, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's MSTCs, Military Student Transition Consultants, inside, to where when a family comes, they're able to help that child, especially when you get into high school. You talk about electives and, you know, trying to graduate. Things change from school to school. One state may not have different requirements than the state incoming state. We also collaborate, and we have several partners. Blue Star Families, TAPS. We have all our partners that we work with together. We collaborate. And this is how we're able to advance the mission in support of our military connected children. Give you an example. we have, and I was just telling Donnell earlier, the ESSA, Every Student Succeed Acts. Within that, we have the military student identifier. It took us 10 years to be able to get that passed through Congress. And in 2015, it was actually passed to where we can have an idea of how our military kids are faring against their civilian counterpart. And that's important for us because that way we know where we need to help. We know what areas we need to focus on. So that's collaborating and that's with the public policy initiatives. There are nearly 2 million military connected children whose parents now serve. But there's also over 2 million parents who have served and they're post 9/11 veterans. And that population is definitely growing. I attended, went on the Hill with our Wounded Warrior Project and went to the Hill, and it was about making our congressional leaders know that veterans are important. Also, when you think of veterans, you think of Vietnam, but really you think about it, they're getting younger and younger. And these veterans are having children that are young. So it's just that population, the 9/11, post 9/11 veterans is growing. Every month, there's 25,000 troops exiting the military. And they are just kids, and each one has a unique story. I know you can't read this up here, but all of our artwork is from our students, our military connected kids. It could be, active duty, guard, reserve. It could be, even our civilians, what it's like for them to have a civilian friend, a military friend. So we accept all kind of artwork. But this right here says, being a military kid means to me is that our family is strong. And there's an exclamation point right there. Because they do, frequent mobility, deployment, separation, adjustments. And you think, oh, well, the war is kind of winding down, but they're still getting deployed. They are still getting deployed. And I like this quote. And again, all the artwork is from our kids. And each one of you, I gave you a calendar. These are extremely beautiful calendars. And all the artwork in there is from our kids. And it's really, really cute to see that. Last year, my favorite was a little baseball. And a little boy drew a baseball, and on there he put a happy face. And he said, "This is how I feel when I'm dead." This quote here is from Matt, and it's, "A military child is one who knows how to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. They all know that service is not something only those in uniform do." And military students live in almost every zip code. Every zip code. Now this is state ranking by population, military connected children. And one is ages 0 to 18, and then the other is 6 to 18. And these are just the heavy populated areas. But all that gray, there's a lot of military kids in those areas too. One area that I mentioned about the military student identifier a little earlier, we just had a meeting with our guard folks because one of our challenges is being able to identify our guard kids. Because they may not move around, but their parents definitely deploy. And it may not be to Iraq or Afghanistan, but it could be to Florida for the floods. It could be for Texas for the hurricanes in Florida. Texas had floods a couple of years ago, and then California had the fires. It was over 200 days that our guard people were deployed over there. So they have to go through a lot of deployment and separation, just as much as our active component. And anyone who knows the Guard, they're more likely to be deployed than their active component. So, families are young, and About 75% of children are below the age of 13, and half are age 5 and younger. So it is young. And there definitely is a difference between our active duty, reserve, and guard. You know, one thing I failed to tell you, that MSEC services all branches of service, to include the guard, reserve, and of course the post 9/11 veterans. Our military kids, I have a question for you. How many times did you move when you were a military kid?
Most of them I was very young, but I think 6.
Yeah. They move anywhere between 2 to 3 years, and that could change anywhere between, changing schools anywhere between 6 to 9 times through their K through 12. So it can be hard on them. And not every child is alike. In the same family, one child may, succeed and not have any trouble out there making friends, but one child may not. So there's different programs that we have to help. We service wherever a child is schooled, we can help. Whether it's public, private, homeschool, so we're there. And I love this quote. It says, "Dad, you've been gone more than half of my life." And it's a 10-year-old wrote that. And I love it. I wish he was here. I wish, it's just. And again, kids thrive with a convoy of support, for sure. Now we have 4 basic programs. We have our student-to-student program, where there are students within the schools, and it could be high school, it could be middle school, it could be elementary. And what they do there, they embrace new kids coming in, because that helps. The first 2 weeks of any new school is going to be the critical time, because if they can't make friends, if they can't acclimate within those first 2 weeks, it could be hard for them for the rest. So we have the student-to-student program, and it teaches them leadership. It teaches them to be able to listen. It teaches them to, just really understand, put themselves in somebody else's shoes. The great thing about the student-to-student program, well, any of our programs, we're not limited it to just military, but there are civilians in there too. Our civilian kids are in the student-to-student program. And it's so cute to have a little kindergartner be welcoming new students coming into the school. Then we have our parent-to-parent program. And I put out an overview of MSEC. I also put out some facts, but our parent-to-parent program it really gives our parents the tools that they need to help their child. It could be helping them get into kindergarten. It could be helping our parents, get the kids from high school to college. I mean, it's just a vast of opportunities that the parents can have to be able to help their children succeed. We also have, one of my favorites is Tell Me a Story. And this Tell Me a Story is focused on literacy. It's a literacy program, and it's for children 4 to 12. And what this does, it helps the children become resilient. And if a school, or if, I don't know, just a Boys and Girls Club, whatever, if they want to have a Tell Me a Story event, usually a celebrity will come in and read a story, and the book is pre-selected depending on what the situation might be of the group. It could be, parents are deployed, it could be, ill or injured. We had one book that it talks about a cat who lost its leg, and it kind of helps the children understand they're not alone, and the fact that, life does go on, and it just helps them to become resilient. And then they get to take that book home and help them expand their library. So I'll give you a little story, a personal story with Tell Me a Story. When my daughter deployed to Afghanistan, she was the commander, so she had to take her troops over. Well, she left 2 of my grandchildren, and I'm thankful that she was here, because I was able to help my grandchildren, my oldest granddaughter and my grandson, I would tell them, I would read the stories, because I went to the National Training Seminar before I started working. This was a while back. And I would get all the books that I could on deployment and moms in the military. And I would read her the stories. Not only did it help my granddaughter, the fact that her mom was gone, it helped me, the mom. And together we survived her deployment, let me just say. So I was thankful for that, but it's an excellent program. And if you go to our website, www.militarychild.org, everything's on there, you can look. Our professionals, we train teachers, superintendents. We have anyone who works with military kids. We could have professional development come in and be able to teach, just so they understand, especially those who work, like I mentioned Boys and Girls Club, it's important that they understand that they can recognize those children who may need extra special help. And we also, back to the professional development, we also help children with special needs too. And then the professional development is for the military student transition consultant, which I mentioned earlier. And that is a person who's actually in a school helping those parents it's like a personal concierge that's in the school that can help those parents with the students transitioning in. Now this is 2017. We're working on our 2018 numbers, but our goal every year is to make that 7 million mark on our reach. And through different venues, the student initiatives, parents initiatives, professional development, the consultants that I mentioned, our outreach initiatives, and our marketing initiatives, we're trying to make that number. But our direct total was down at the bottom. And you know, I had someone ask me, well, Dalena, that's an awful lot of difference between the two. How are you even doing that? How do you? Well, we had a national training seminar back in July. We always try to have it in the summer, excuse me, so we can have teachers come. We can have, you know, the superintendents, you know, anyone who works with kids. Our military comes. Our students come to this. To just give you an example, we had 892 attendees. And we have it down in DC, and 555 were virtual attendees. We had 54,107 Facebook Live attendees. We had 30.2 million Twitter reach, and you know, it just 662,000 Facebook reach. So we do have a lot of reach. And that's the important thing, because we really want to get out, because all of our services are free. They're free. We have Wednesday, we have webinars on Wednesday, free webinars on Wednesdays, and podcast Thursdays. So if you go to our website, you'll be able to look at a webinar or a podcast, and it just talks about different things about when it comes to military kids. Our student-to-student program, again, leadership, academic service. Whoops. Didn't even do that. Finding the way, relationships is critical, and it's 100% acceptance. When I first was introduced to MSAC, it was in 2007, and I actually attended a student-to-student training, and I fell in love with MSAC. At that moment, I fell in love, because what they were doing for these kids was incredible. It was really teaching them the leadership skills that need to be, that every child needs to really be able to experience through their childhood. It's just the way of growing. Our student-to-student, if you go to our website, www.militarychild.org, you want to wonder, I wonder if there's a student-to-student program in wherever I'm going in Florida. You can go click on the 38, and it will show Florida, and it will show you all the schools, and you can separate it from elementary school, middle school, and high school. So again, we have a huge OCONUS reach. We have Belgium, Cuba. We have Germany, Guam, Italy, Japan, South Korea. I mean, we're all over the place. Turkey, United Kingdom. But and this is great for parents because they can think, okay, I'm going to California. What are the schools there? Or one of the schools that my child is going to, is that on do they have a student-to-student program? And then we have, and I gave this to you because I really wanted you to kind of get some of the experiences our kids have had. And I think the one that touches my heart the most is the one that says, gone is gone. Separation from a parent are never easy. Gone is gone. Doesn't matter if you're guard, reserve, active duty, gone is gone. And this is why we do what we do, to help those military-connected kids thrive in the face of transition, mobilization, and family separation. Does anyone have any questions?
Question.
Yes.
I saw all the numbers, the millions and hundreds of thousands. What is a contact exactly? Just somebody that you just contacted or met with, or?
Well, we have, at the bottom, we have the direct touch, and that can be a webinar. I'm sorry, not a webinar. It can be an actual, where we're doing a facilitation. In South Carolina, we did a professional development, and oh, by the way, our veterans, we have, you say you have an app for that. We have a course to help our veterans families transition from the military to civilian life, because that's a transition too. Here you're a child and you're always moving around, and all of a sudden you stop. Well, it's a transition. So we have that under our professional development. But anyway, to go back to your question, we have facilitations that we actually did in South Carolina. That's the course that we gave, but the reach out from that one facilitation was over 5,000. So it really does have a lot of touch points that we have.
How many kids do you think are worldwide?
We have about 4 million military connected.
You want to touch all 4 million?
Right, but it's not just the kids that we want. I mean, we're touching their parents. We're touching their educators. We're touching.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Dalena, you had this 6 to 9 times moving, in a lifetime. Does that count? Do the statistics include the move within a move? For example, this has happened to me so many times. You would transition from Virginia to Alaska. Well, when you go to Alaska, your quarters aren't ready, so you live on the economy. And you get settled there for 6 months to a year, depending on how, and then you have to move onto the coast. And so that's 3 moves, really.
Right. I don't know if I think it just does, the unit or the service member's actual PCS or transition.
Yeah, because those are really vital, because you actually could change schools then too. I didn't know if that was
and personally, that happened to us.
Yeah.
My husband was stationed in Arkansas, and we had to move, 3 times or 2 times. We had to move 2 times. So and change schools. So I know. But I think it's just every 2 to 3 years. That's the on average.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I noticed that Texas is the one with the highest number of partnerships, and Virginia is second, with 100 and something. So what have you seen is what has made you succeed in those 2 states as compared to the others? What have you learned through that?
Good question. Well, I have to say, Texas is the best state. I'm from Texas.
From a true Texan.
But our headquarters is stationed in Texas. We're right outside of Fort Hood. And it's, that's where we started, and it's really going very well there. Texas is one of our states that we kind of try to be like all the other states. So it's great, but it's our headquarters is there, and it's just right outside Fort Hood. But, you know, the other states are doing well too. And one thing I do want to mention, I also gave you On the Move magazine. You can actually see them. We have in here on page, let's see, I think it's 10 and 11. On page 10 and 11. I know I'm almost out of time. I don't want to. It talks about the graduation. This is very helpful for our parents. If they're going to a different state, there's different types of graduation plans in each one of these states. So what we try to do is we try to give as much information that we possibly can to our parents so they can help their child, especially in high school. So, you know, it kind of gives you some information. But this has a lot of great articles in it. But anyway.
One question, so the students, are you trying to get like a student like kind of trained in every school, so when the other military kids come in, they can make them feel comfortable, or are you looking for counselors to work with the school counselors?
Good question. Actually, both.
Oh.
We have our students, but every student-to-student has a sponsor, and it's usually like a counselor or a teacher within that school, and they're able to help. But in the high school, the kids are the ones who lead the program. The counselor is just, or the sponsor is just there to support.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Okay, we want to be respectful of everybody's time, so we've got a couple more group discussion items.